back. 71-year-old Giselle Pellicot, the French woman who was subjected to mass rape organized by her husband of over 10 years, has appeared before the court in Avignon, France, condemning the cowardice of the dozens of men accused of abusing her, who claimed that they did not realize it was rape, adding that France's patriarchal society must change. Her husband, Dominique Pellicot, has admitted to drugging his wife and inviting strangers to their house to rape her while she was unconscious, in a trial that has attracted worldwide attention and turned into an examination of the pervasiveness of sexual violence. Most of the other 50 men on trial have said they did not realize that they were raping her. They did not intend to rape her, but put the blame on her husband, whom they said manipulated them. Video recorded by her husband and shown in court over the past weeks has repeatedly featured her motionless, sometimes snoring, while the abuse continued. We have the VOA's Lisa Bryant joining us now from Paris, France. Lisa, great to see you. What was the mood like in court today as Giselle once again gave her testimony, and this time providing evidence which still had to come under scrutiny by the defense?
It was very tense. She was giving her last sort of discussion. She was actually on the defendant's seat, not as a defendant, but responding to the defendant's lawyers' questions. And the lawyers for the defense were quite aggressive, and she did hold her own, but it was a very tense atmosphere. And after she took the stand, her husband at the end of the day did the same.
Yeah, and there does seem to be a lot that went on in the marriage that she didn't know about, probably those times that she blacked out. An example is when Dominique, her husband, attempted to film up women's skirts, plus the years of memory loss added to that.
Yeah, that's true. And that was basically, in some ways, it was the way that she found out what her husband was finally doing, because she had gone to different doctors, psychiatrists, trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And he actually took her to these appointments. And it was only, as you pointed out, when the police got him after filming up a woman's skirt, and they found the videos that he had taken, hundreds of videos apparently, that she found out what had happened. But she had allegedly been drugged and just had a complete memory loss of what all this was about, just knowing that she did not feel well when she'd get up every morning.
The horror of that. Dominique has also had a chance to address the court. He did admit most of the crimes that he committed, but was he remorseful, Lisa?
He seems to have been remorseful, including during his last appearance today. He's apologized to his wife. He apologized to his children. His children are, fear his daughter, and one of his sons fears that he may have raped members of the family besides his wife. In the case of one of his sons, that would have been a grandson, and the daughter fears that she too was drugged and raped. He denies all that. He claims remorse. He said he was egotistical. He says that he too had been sexually violated as a child, although he said that didn't exonerate him. But yeah, he has exhibited remorse.
Well, all of these other cases he's bringing up, are they all part of the facilitated rapes that he was accused of in court?
Well, there are 49 men already also on trial with him, and these are the men who are accused of also raping Giselle Pellicot. They're men that he reached out to on social media and said, come on over, and suggested they participate in what they claim was consensual. Many of them claim was consensual sex. And as you pointed out, in some of the videos of her, she was snoring. But apparently, according to these men, some of them have pleaded guilty, but the majority have said that they had no idea, that they thought that she was faking sleeping, etc. And so they claim that they are not guilty of rape.
This is pretty hard to even talk about. Much more watch and read. Though he's been in jail since 2020, his sentencing is set for December 20. What is a likely punishment for him?
Any of them would get about up to 20 years in prison or more sometimes. So that would be years in prison. He's in his 70s or 69 anyway, around 70. And so that suggests it could be life in prison for him. It's a trial that's shaken France, it's shaken the world. I mean, Nigeria, it's been, you've had me on and probably some of my colleagues before. It's really been a shocking trial for this country. And I think part of it was that this is a family that appeared to be so ordinary. The family, the couple seemed to love each other. They would have these family dinners. They lived in a small village in southern France. There was nothing special about them until this incredibly shocking these events came on, and it went to trial. And this has really been something else for the country, and obviously for this area of southern France outside of Avignon.
And how brave of her, Lisa, to have come out, to tell her story, however difficult it is, and then, having to hear all of these other details in court, things that may have happened to her children, what these men have done. How is she being portrayed to the French, to the country itself? Because I've seen, messages of support for her, on the internet, but for normal French people, especially as she accused the society of being patriarchal, what is it like for someone like her to come out and tell her story and then recount all of these experiences, literally telling the whole world what happened to her?
Yeah, that's it. You've really said it the way that a lot of French women and men are impressed by her bravery. And she's basically, France had a very mixed reaction to the whole Me Too movement that came out, the global movement that came out a few years ago. There were thousands marching on the streets, but there were also some prominent figures who said, it's been overblown. But in this trial, this woman has been really lauded for her bravery. She's received, standing ovations when she arrives in the courthouse. She's, again, an ordinary woman, or seemingly ordinary woman in her 70s, who said, she didn't have to have this as an open trial. And she opted to have it as an open trial so that people could understand, sexual abuse. And so her supporters find her extremely brave. They've given her flowers, etc. And it's raised questions, which she's actually led with, about, male-female relationships, about sexual violence, about going too far, very uncomfortable questions that the society is beginning to ask themselves. So it's obviously reverberated far beyond this incredibly horrendous trial if the allegations are true.
Well, Giselle is speaking not just for herself and for her daughter, she's speaking for the rest of the country and all women everywhere who have gone through similar experiences. Thanks again, Lisa.
My pleasure. Thank you.
A Hong Kong court has sentenced dozens of pro-democracy leaders to years in jail for subversion following a controversial national security trial. 60-year-old Benny Tai, 28-year-old Joshua Wong were among the so-called Hong Kong 47 group of activists and lawmakers who were involved in a plan to pick opposition candidates for local elections. Tai received 10 years, while Wong received more than 4 years. A total of 45 people were jailed for conspiring to commit subversion. 2 of the defendants were acquitted in May. This was the biggest trial under the national security law which China imposed on the city shortly after explosive pro-democracy protests in 2019. Hundreds of thousands took to the streets in a months-long standoff against Beijing, triggered by a proposed government treaty that would have allowed extradition to mainland China. The protests quickly grew to reflect wider demands for democratic reforms in Hong Kong.
It's unfair because what they have done is only, to do what the basic law had already laid down, that it is their right to put pressure to the administration to let them respond to the majority of Hong Kong people. So I don't know what is their criminal offense.
We're very concerned about what's happening in Hong Kong with political freedoms and freedom of speech, and the NSL 47 trial is one of them. So we're very eager to see what the sentencing will be like today, but at the same time, the U.S. government and condemns the continuous prosecution of individuals here in Hong Kong who are expressing their political views, they're exercising their freedom of speech, and they're wanting to participate in a political process for their own jurisdiction here for Hong Kong.
New York police have taken into custody a suspect following random stabbings in New York City on Monday morning that left 3 people dead. Police said a 51-year-old homeless man identified as Ramon Rivera was apprehended following the 3rd attack and has been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Police said the first took place just before 8:30 a.m. local time at 19th Street between 9th and 10th Avenues. A man was fatally stabbed in the abdomen outside the Chelsea Club. The victim, a 36-year-old construction worker, was attacked without warning. Surveillance video shows the apparent suspect placing a bag down, taking off his hat and putting on a hoodie and later gloves. Moments later, he looked around and then pulled out a knife and put it in his pocket. Another camera captured him walking along the sidewalk before police say he stabbed the construction worker, killing him.
And today we have 3 innocent New Yorkers who's going about their lives with a victim of a terrible, terrible assault. 2 lost their lives. 1 is fighting for her life. It is a clear example of the criminal justice system, mental health system that continues to fail New Yorkers. And it is troubling that we're standing here today in a day that brings a great level of difficulty and pain to the city.
Incident number 1 occurs in the confines of the 10th precinct today at 8:22 a.m. in front of 444 West 19th Street. Our victim is a male Hispanic, 36 years old. He's standing in front of a construction site where he is employed when, without warning, he is stabbed in the abdomen. The assault appears to be unprovoked at this time. The perpetrator fled southbound on 9th Avenue. Our victim was removed to Bellevue Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 8:50 in the morning. Witnesses stated that the perpetrator was a male, light-skinned, in his 60s with a beard. He was wearing a gray shirt and a dark-colored ski hat. Witnesses described the knife as a kitchen knife. Approximately 2 hours later, incident number 2 occurs at 10:27 a.m. at 500 East 30th Street and the East River by the Old Water Club. A male, Asian, 68 years old, who was fishing at the time of the attack, was stabbed multiple times throughout the body. A 911 caller rings the bell and police respond to the location. Unfortunately, our victim is removed to Bellevue Hospital, where he's pronounced dead. 30 minutes later, after this incident, our 3rd and final attack occurs at 10:55 a.m. at 42nd Street and 1st Avenue, right by the UN. Our 3rd victim is described as a female black, 36 years old. She is stabbed multiple times throughout her body. She is brought to Cornell Medical Center, where she is currently in critical condition.
It's International Men's Day today, a global awareness day for many issues of men face, including parental alienation, abuse, homelessness, suicide, and violence. It's celebrated on November 19 every year. And this year's theme is Men's Health Champions, emphasizing improving men's overall well-being and promoting healthy lifestyles. Man up is a term used often to get men to shake off negative feelings and carry on with life. Showing emotions, especially signs of needing help, is not considered manly. As a result, males often avoid getting help for their psychological complaints. According to the World Health Organization, men are twice as likely to die by suicide than women. Although depression diagnoses are more often in women, experts say millions of men experiencing depression go undiagnosed. Mental advocate Redmond Amour was on Channel Television's Health Matters recently. He says it is important to start paying attention in an empathetic manner.
Even your friend expect that you cannot feel. You are not struggling. Even if you are struggling, as a man, you should figure it out. You don't need to seek a professional help. And it's not a sign of weakness, seeking a professional help. It's a sign of strength for those around people who are struggling, men especially. It's just having that listener. So most of the time, when you talk about your struggle, it is half solved. Sometimes that person you are talking to might not have solution to your problem.
That's correct.
But because you said it out, you say it the way it is, it feels lighter in you. So people need to come off as a supporting system that men can rely on, a shoulder that you can rely on. They need to be supportive and ensure that this person is following their passion. That's the male child is following his passion and all of those.
In the meantime, First Lady of Lagos State, Dr. Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, alongside UNICEF Country Representative Christian Mundiate and other experts on boy-child development have emphasized the critical role of modern parenting strategies in raising emotionally intelligent, empathetic, and resilient boys. Dr. Sanwo-Olu was speaking at the 2024 Lagos Boy-Child Initiative Parenting Seminar, where she encouraged parents to foster open communication within their homes, create an environment where boys feel safe to express their emotions and learn the values of self-awareness and compassion.
Parents, guardians, top government officials, religious leaders, security officials, and other concerned groups all converge on Lagos House Marina for the 2024 Lagos Boy-Child Initiative Parenting Seminar.
Members of the State Executive Council.
The annual event, organized by the Office of the First Lady, is designed to support parents and guardians in their efforts to raise well-rounded boys prepared for today's world.
Distinguished panel.
And the conversation kicks off with a panel session anchored by one of Channel's TV presenters, Ayo Makinde, focusing on the issue of depression affecting young boys.
Children can have mental health problems. And indeed, boys have a unique set of mental health problems that they have higher risk of having. And that puts them at further risk of things like depression, when they get older.
Some of them do drugs because they are depressed. Depression can lead to drug use. So what do you need to do as parents? Please, let's be involved in their world. Let's be intentional. Let's listen to them. Because if you don't listen to them, they won't listen to you.
More needs to be done in terms of observance. As an intelligence officer, I would say that parents don't really pay much attention to observance. And that is the reason why we are having a society where there is moral decadence and there is a high level of crime, more than ever before in Nigeria.
We should allow our 5-year-olds to be children. We should allow them to cry and show emotions. There's nothing wrong with being a child. In all of this, it depends on the mind of the boy child we're talking about. Where you're able to present different scenarios and you see different children with different ideas and upbringing, then you know that you can change some things about yourself.
UNICEF's country representative, Christian Munduate, applauds the state government for coming up with the Boy-Child Initiative and says it is important to balance support for both girls and boys for them to succeed.
They all have the same rights. And this is how we look at children's rights from a UNICEF perspective. We make sure that they are protected, we make sure that we promote their rights, and we make sure that they can A, survive with the right access to health and nutrition.
Underscoring the need to support boys' physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being, Dr. Sanwo-Olu urges participants to help shape boys into men of integrity.
As parents, we must prioritize the holistic well-being of our sons. Raising boys today requires attention to their physical, mental, emotional, and social health. We cannot afford to overlook all these areas. Our society must be equipped to provide robust support systems through the schools, places of worship, and the community programs that strengthen our boys and prepare them to thrive in a rapidly changing world.
The Lagos State government encourages parents to foster open communication within their homes, create an environment where boys feel safe to express their emotions, and learn the value of self-awareness and compassion. It is still International Men's Day with a focus on men's mental health. Joining me now in the studio is parenting and fatherhood coach Akinropo Akinola. Thank you for joining me on this very auspicious occasion, and a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well, it is nice to have you here in the studio, your first appearance here on The World Today. So the theme for this year's International Men's Day is men's health. That's something that's hardly ever talked about. And I'm sure that you can testify to that. You're a man as well as a coach. What are some of those challenges regarding, men's health that we tend to overlook, especially when we talk about men's health, those things we like to gloss over? What are those things?
You see, the challenge, first off, let me just really appreciate you once again, the management of Channels TV, for having me here. So thank you. I do not take that opportunity for granted. So when we talk about men's health, over time, we've been advocating for this. Maybe we need to change the theme. Men's health, mental health. This, you will agree with me that in this part of the world, when people hear the word your mental status, the mental health, the way they defined it from their mindset is quite different from the promoter, what they intend to really achieve. So there was a place I went last year where they're talking about men's health, and I just said maybe we can just change this to men's affairs. So when we get to men's affairs, so from there, we can now deep dive into going into what challenges that men go through. So when we're talking about men's health, one of the major challenges that has never allowed, men folks to gravitate towards that advocacy is the culture, right? So that culture is, we have been trained, right? Not to cry. We've been trained to man up. And I'm glad about, last week, the wife of the governor's initiative about the boy's child, right? So where they're still talking about that the emotions that we, as men, that we have, is not the one that is devoid, or rather the masculinity demands us is not the one that is devoid of emotional expression. So I tell people that masculinity contains or consists of the muscles in us and the emotions. But right from childhood, we have been trained, we have been brainwashed, quote and unquote, right, to believe that men are not supposed to express emotions. Men are not supposed to cry. Only women cry, only girls cry. So when a guy or a boy, right from childhood, when they do anything to him and feels embarrassed, any moment that he wants to cry, the next thing they shout the boy down. Why are you behaving like a girl? Yeah, but what does that result to? When you're bottling up emotions as a boy, what sort of man do you become when you grow up? The evidence is what we are seeing now. Give us examples. Yes, we have seen men who are not emotionally, we've seen men who are emotionally brittle adults who don't know how to handle their homes. Emotionally brittle adults who checks out in the face of challenges in the home because they are not trained, they are not empowered with the right knowledge on how to handle the challenges with their home. So they just check out. I can't deal. Before you know it, everything has gone. That is when they are even being hard on themselves. At times when they are being weak, we see men who have taken their life. Yeah. So instead of telling men to man up, why can't we just, empower them with necessary tools on how to engage in effective communication with their partners or within the group that they belong.
What sort of tools are we talking about here? Because you actually do, touch on a very important subject, which is the issue of men's suicide. Men usually, you have more men who die by suicide.
Yes,
according to Heads Up, guys, it's one of the world's leading men's health resource. It says the 75 to 80% of deaths by suicide are committed by men.
So one of the tools is critical thinking, capacity. Critical thinking capacity, involves you view everything that happens, the challenges that happen to you, from the perspective of what is it all about? Then what has it brought to teach me? What is it that I've done in time past that has brought these consequences upon me? So what is it that I can do better in order to forestall recurrence of this in my life?
That's taking accountability.
That's taking accountability. We are not trained to be accountable to whatever actions that we have taken. This is something I always tell people, that every action that we take today has a future consequence or consequences.
Yeah.
So people must bear that in mind. So anything that happens to me today didn't just happen, didn't just fall from heaven. They happened as a result of some decisions I took in time past. So men should be able to review their activities. Who were they? Who are they? Where are they coming from? Who do they want to become in the future? Then, if they are married, the wife, the children, what future do I hope for these children that I am raising? Especially, I am being emotional right now, right? I can even excuse you as a single man. If you want to live your life the way you want, no problem, right? But when you have children, then you have wife that are looking up onto you. You have no excuse to live your life the way you want to live it.
Yeah, but I feel like, some men would also say, some of these people in our lives are our wives and our children. And even those around us should also, understand with us. I'm speaking for the men.
Okay.
They should understand with us, what we're going through, how hard it is being a man, and so on. What can these other support groups around them do to help men be who they're supposed to be?
Okay, I think it is not always the case. You can't just, or men can't just assume that my wife or the wife should understand, the children should understand, when you are not even emotionally expressive. You are not being effective in your style of communication. How would they know? So let me cite one example. Every child you see in the home believes that their fathers are doing well financially.
Yeah.
They wake up in the morning, they eat, they go to school, they come back, they watch TV, they have all the basic amenities to themselves. They don't know how these how this come by.
Superman,
Daddy is superhuman. So at a point, you need to open up to your children. I'm not even talking about you opening up to the wife now, because that one is almost impossible for some men. But when the challenges come, that is when the wife will now be asking, what is it? I don't know. I thought you had this. I thought you had this. And I'm speaking from experience. This is something that happened to me, right? If I'm permitted to mention the year 2008, 2009, I was doing a business and I ran into debt. And I was like, hiding it away from my wife and the children, because I was raised to man up.
Yeah.
I was raised not to really divulge my vulnerability, to expose my vulnerability to my children and my wife, because if they know, they will take advantage of me, right? That was how I was raised. But when the bubble burst, when the challenges came, when the consequences appear, I wasn't only the victim of the consequences, everybody around me. So that was when I now opened up. And the questions then were, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
I thought. So I became a fool. I didn't know what to do again.
Okay. Akiropo, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. I know we have a lot to discuss. You sound like you need your own show. But thanks for coming on The World today.
Thank you for having me once again. There is something I want to say, if I'm permitted to just say that.
No, sorry, next time. Moving on now, Google says it would harm consumers and businesses if it is forced to sell Chrome, the world's most popular web browser. The U.S. Department of Justice will propose a measure to a judge on Wednesday, according to Bloomberg. Judge Amit Mehta ruled Google operates on an online search monopoly in August and has been considering what remedies or penalties to impose. And finally on the program, track contestants in Morocco. There they are. You'll be surprised who they are. Little toddlers and babies, basically, running for the grand prize, of which you'll hear in a few minutes. This baby crawl race was hosted by the Interdisciplinary Media Training and Technological Development Center. It's the second edition of the competition, first of its kind, however, in Africa and the Arab world. We're looking at 40 babies participating in this competition, going head-to-head in front of spectators, entertaining us until they get to the finish line. Organizers say the event encourages infants to interact with their environments, and it serves as an innovative method for optimal development of a child's nervous system during the early stages of growth. And that's the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.